And after that, interface, for example, ETH21 has this configuration, should configure with the IP router OSPF 1 area 0. Also interface ETH22 with the configuration of the same configuration, IP router OSPF 1 area 0. This is the configuration of the switch 1. And also we should configure the same commands for the switch 2. Switch 2 license grace period feature OSPF. Router ID is a unique identifier of OSPF. For OSPF, router ID quad 2. Interface ETH21 and interface ETH22 now is configured with the IP router OSPF 1 area 0. That's it. Let me copy the configuration of switch 1. Copy and pasting on the NXOS1 switch. Look at here. Yes. Now we have the feature OSPF. Very good. And after that, we should configure the switch 2. Copy and pasting on the switch 2. Okay. Let me check the enabling the OSPF here. The router ID is quad 2. Let me to copy the command again. Copy and pasting here in the switch 2. Very good. Now we can check the enabling the OSPF on the interface. Show IP OSPF interface brief. You can see that here we have two interface, ETH21, ETH22 with OSPF enabled interfaces. And also in the NXOS2, let me check, show IP OSPF interface. Okay, brief show us that here we have two interface that enabled for the for example OSPF. Let me check the neighborship in the switch 1, show IP OSPF neighbor. As you can see here we have two neighbors. One of these neighbors should be teared down. This is the neighbor with before the changing the router ID, because as you saw I changed the router ID. You can restart the OSPF process with the restart, for example restart, okay, OSPF 1 in switch 1 and also switch 2 if you need. Restart OSPF 1. Okay, let me check again the OSPF status, show IP OSPF neighbor. We have one neighbor in switch 1 and also in the switch 2, show IP OSPF neighbor. We have one neighbor in switch 2. Let me check the routing table of the switch 1, show IP route OSPF. These routes, for example 10200 received from the OSPF. Look at here, switch 1 learn the 10200 with the OSPF, and also in switch 2 show IP route OSPF. Okay, show us that the 10100 now received from the router 1 from the 10121, and this is the next stop. This is the incoming interface, and also this is the administrative distance, the metric, and the time, and the OSPF process, and this is the intro area route. Okay, very good. But until now we configured OSPF without passive interface. Okay, you know that on the ETH22 of the switch 1 and also switch 2 now hello is sending. Let me to show you. You can capture this link, and also you can use the for example debug command, debug IP OSPF, for example hello, debug IP OSPF hello can show us the hellos that switch 1 now is sending, the OSPF hello that switch 1 is sending over the interfaces. Look at here, the OSPF hello now is sending over both of interfaces of 2.1 and also 2.2. This is the hello on the interface Ethernet 2.1, and this is the hello on the interface 2.2. We don't need the sending the hello on the interface ETH22. Let me to configure this interface as the passive interface. Conf t, okay, interface ETH22 IP OSPF passive interface. That's it. Now let me check again the debug. Look at here. In debug, now we only can see the hellos that is sending on the ETH21. Look at here. This is the hello on the ETH21, And other hellos also should be sent on the ETH21 only, not ETH22. You can see ETH22, all of the hellos now is sending on the ETH21. Let me to undebug the debugs, undebug all, for example. And also, if you want, you can capture the ETH22 of the NXOS2. Let me show you the capture of the ETH22 here. I captured ETH21. It's good to capturing the ETH22. On the ETH21 we have hellos, but on the ETH22 capture, ETH22, as you can see here, we will not have the OSPF hellos because I configured this interface as the passive. Let me to show you the OSPF packets. We don't have any OSPF hello. And also we need to configure the, for example, ETH22 of the NXOS2 with the second method. In the first method, I configured ETH22 with as a passive interface with IP OSPF passive interface. On switch 1 you can use show IP OSPF interface ETH22. Look at here, this is the passive interface. Show IP OSPF interface to Ethernet 22, this is the passive interface, but interface ETH21 is not a passive interface. Let's go to the NXOS2. In NXOS2 I'm using the second method. The second method is you can use in router OSPF1 the command of passive interface default. This means that please do all interface, change all interface from the non-passive to passive. Look at here, show IP OSPF neighbor. We don't have neighborship. Why? Because we configured all of the interfaces as passive. And if you can see, if you check show IP OSPF interface ETH21, now this is a passive interface, and also ETH22, this is a passive interface. It's not good. We should disable the passive interface on the ETH21. Interface ETH21, no IP OSPF, okay, no IP OSPF passive interface. Now we will have the neighborship, show IP OSPF neighbor. Yes, we have neighborship. Show IP OSPF interface ETH00 as show IP OSPF, for example, in ETH02, ETH2 as 1. Look at here. Show IP OSPF interface ETH21. Look at here. This interface is not passive interface, and also ETH22, this is passive interface. Okay, you can use the first method if you have a few number of the passive interface, and you can use the second method if you have many so many number of the passive interfaces. For example, you have many interface VLAN and you need to configure many of them as a passive interface. Both of these methods can be used for the changing the interface mode to passive interface. Don't forget, if you configure a passive an interface in OSPF as passive interface, that interface doesn't send and also doesn't accept the OSPF hellos. This means that we will not have OSPF neighborship on that interface. The configuration is so easy. You can use the interface command IP OSPF passive interface, and also in the second method you can change the mode of all interface to passive, and after that you can configure another interface as non-passive. The command for monitoring, for checking the status of an interface about passive and non-passive, is the previous command I mentioned before, show IP OSPF interface, then the name of the interface. You can see the passive interface on the last line of the show IP OSPF interface name. This is the OSPF passive interface feature.